Kobe Bryant said this: the world becomes your library to help you improve your craft. Sit with that for a second. Not a classroom, not a course, not a certification program, not a mentor you haven't found yet, not the right time you finally have the bandwidth, not when you've saved enough money, not when life slows down. The world, every conversation, every failure, every person sitting across from you, every book that lands in your hands at a specific moment, every podcast you find at 6 a.m., every observation you make while walking through a city, every situation that frustrates you, every season that breaks you, all of it, library. The question Kobe is really asking isn't whether the world is your library. It is. The question is whether you're reading it, whether you walk through life as a student, with extracting, observing, absorbing, applying, or whether you walk through it, waiting for the right conditions to finally start learning. Because here's the man I want to talk to today. The man who says, I really dig in when I have more time. I'll study this properly when things settle down. I'll invest in learning when I have resources. I'm not ready yet. That man is not waiting to be ready. He's already falling behind, and the library he needs has been open this whole time. This is episode 51, and today we're talking about what it means to make the whole world your teacher. To understand what Kobe meant, you have to understand how Kobe learned. He didn't just study basketball, he studied ballet for footwork, he studied psychology to understand opponents and teammates, he studied military strategy to understand preparation and execution under pressure. He read philosophy, he watched film of players who weren't even in his era. He extracted from sources that had nothing to do with basketball on the surface but had everything to do with mastery underneath. This is the Mamba mentality, reduced to its core principle. The committed man sees raw material for growth everywhere. The uncommitted man sees learning as a designated activity that happens in designated places at designated times. One man has 24 hours of potential study every day. The other has whatever window he's carved out, if he's carved out one at all. Proverbs 18 verse 15 says, an intelligent heart acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Seeks. That word is active. The wise man doesn't wait for knowledge to arrive at his door. He seeks it. He goes looking for it. And the man who goes looking finds it in places the passive man walks past every day. That's the posture Kobe was describing. Not a method, a posture. A permanent orientation toward the world that says, I am always in school, the campus is everywhere. Let me name the enemy directly. It's not laziness. Laziness is obvious, you can see it. This enemy is more sophisticated. The enemy is the belief that readiness is a precondition for learning. It sounds reasonable, it sounds responsible. I want to do this properly. I want to be in the right headspace. I want to have the right foundation before I go deep. I want to get something stable first. It's a lie dressed as wisdom because readiness doesn't precede learning. Learning produces readiness. You don't become ready and then start. You start, and starting is what makes you ready. The man waiting to be ready is waiting for something that can come only from the thing he's waiting to begin. Think about where this shows up. The man who wants to start a business but is waiting until he knows enough about business. The man who wants to get in shape but is waiting until his schedule is cleaner. The man who wants to build something but is waiting for a mentor to appear and give him that roadmap. While he waits, the world keeps offering him lessons. The conversation with the difficult client that would taught him negotiation, the failed attempt that would have shown him exactly what not to do. The book that falls into his hands at the exact right moment if he were looking. He misses all of it, not because the library was closed, because he was standing outside, waiting for someone to tell him he was ready to enter. Ecclesiastes 11 verse 4 says, whoever watches the wind will not plant, whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Watching the wind, looking at the clouds, waiting for the perfect conditions that will never arrive. The harvest belongs to the man who plants in imperfect conditions and learns from every season, good and bad. I want to be honest about how my education has actually worked because it doesn't look like what most people picture when they think of learning. I didn't go back to school. I didn't take a formal course for most of what I know now and I use. I didn't wait until I had a structured program to follow. I read books, not because I had a reading plan, because I was hungry and the books were there. Think and Grow Rich, Be What You Wish, Atomic Habits, Shoe Dog, the Bible, books that don't agree with each other on the surface but are pointing at the same thing underneath. That what you build in your mind becomes what you live in your life. I listen to podcasts, hours of them, at 5 a.m., in transit, while building things, while working out, other people's stories, other people's failures, other people's frameworks, absorbed and filtered and applied to what I was trying to build. I learned from failure. The 5 years I spent inside a company that didn't work out for me, I could have called it wasted time. I don't. That was 5 years of learning how businesses break, what poor leadership looks like, what it costs to give your effort to someone else's vision without alignment. That education was painful. It was also precise. I learned from people, not just mentors, from anyone who was building something, struggling with something, trying something, from conversations that weren't scheduled to be educational, from watching how people operated under pressure. I learned from discomfort. Starting YouTube when I was soft poking and uncomfortable on camera was not a performance move, it was a study. Every video taught me something about communication, about presence, and what it costs to keep going when nothing feels natural yet. None of this was a formal curriculum. All of it was the library. Romans 8, verse 28 says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. All things. Not the uncomfortable things, not the comfortable things, not the planned things. All things. I failed company. The failed company, the hard seasons, the awkward videos, the conversations that went wrong, the plans that collapsed, all of it working together. All of it curriculum. I want to name five specific libraries that most men have access to right now, today, and aren't reading. The first is failure. Your failures are the most expensive, most specific, most personalized education you will ever receive. The man who reviews his failures the way a coach reviews game film extracts information that no book can give him because it's about him, his patterns, his specific gaps. But most men don't review failure, they bury it. The library sits unread, and failure is a feedback. The second is people. Every person you encounter has lived a life you haven't, has solved problems you haven't solved, has made mistakes you haven't made yet. The man who approaches people with genuine curiosity, not networking, not agenda, is constantly in school. The man who approaches every conversation as a transaction misses every lesson. The third is scripture, not as obligation, as study. The Bible is the most complete document on human nature, leadership, failure, redemption, and purpose ever assembled. The man who reads it the way Kobe watched film, looking for principles, patterns, application, walks away with a framework for life that nothing else can replicate. The fourth is your own life in real time. What is this current season teaching you? What is the struggle you're in right now pointing toward? What is the constraint you're operating under revealing about your character, your capacity, your gaps? The man who asks these questions, is learning continuously. The man who just endures the man who just endures his season graduates with nothing. The fifth is other people's crafts. Kobe studied ballet not because he wanted to dance, because masters of any craft have solved problems of precision, discipline, and performance that translate. The entrepreneur who studies military strategy, the communicator who studies stand up comedy, the leader who studies architecture, cross domain learning is where breakthroughs come from. And most men never leave their own lane long enough to find them. There's a posture that makes all of this possible. And it's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not even discipline. It is the conventional sense. It's humility. The man who thinks he already knows enough stops receiving. The man who carries his current knowledge like a trophy is protecting it instead of adding to it. He filters every new piece of information through what he already believes, and anything that challenges his existing framework gets rejected as wrong. The student posture is different. It says, I'm always the least knowledgeable person in any room I haven't already mastered. It says, this person, this book, this situation has something for me that I don't have yet. It says, being corrected is not an attack on who I am, it's raw material for who I am becoming. Proverbs 19, verse 20 says, listen to advice and accept discipline, and, and at the end, you will be counted among the wise. At the end, not the start, at the end. The wisdom is the destination. The listening and accepting is the road, and the road is long enough that a man who starts walking it immediately will still be walking for years. This is why I read. This is why I listen to podcasts. This is why I sit with the book again, even I've read it before, because I'm different now. And the same text will teach me something different. This is why I pay attention to my failures instead of dismissing them. This is why I take the uncomfortable path over the comfortable one when I see that the uncomfortable one has more to teach. I am not waiting to be ready. I am in the library right now. I have been for years, and the library has never been closed. Let me make this concrete because the principle is clean, but the application is where most men get stuck. First, assign a question to your day, not a goal, a question. What is today trying to teach me? It could be about your business, your relationships, your character, your craft. Pick one question and carry it through the day like a lens. You'll be surprised what the library offers when you're actually looking for something specific. Second, review the week, not just plan it. Most men plan forward. The student also looks backward. What happened this week that I didn't expect? What failed and why? What worked and why? What did a person say or do that I should think more about? 5 minutes of review extracts the lessons before the experience fades. Third, read across domains. Whatever your craft is, find the masters of a completely different craft and study how they think. Read their interviews, study their process. You're not looking for direct application, you're looking for principles that transfer. Kobe didn't need to know how to pirouette, he needed to understand how the best in the world train for precision. Fourth, treat every difficult person as a curriculum. The person who frustrates you most is teaching you something about your own triggers, your own gaps, your own unresolved patterns. That's not a comfortable lesson, it's a necessary one. The student doesn't avoid the difficult teacher, he extracts from them. Fifth, apply before you feel ready. This is the whole point. Don't wait to fully understand before you try. Try, observe what happens, extract the lesson, adjust, try again. The cycle of application and reflection is the actual learning. Everything else is just reading the menu. I want to bring this back to faith because I think the man of faith has the richest library available to him and is sometimes the slowest to use it. James 1 verse 5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." Ask and it will be given. But here's what I've learned about God, about how God tends to answer that prayer. He rarely sends the wisdom directly. He sends the situation that contains it. He sends the book at the right time. He sends the person who says the thing you needed to hear. He sends the failure that cracks open the understanding. He sends the hard season that strips away the thing that was blocking the next level. The wisdom is given, but it's packaged in the library, and you have to be in the library to receive it. The man who prays for wisdom and then retreats from the world to wait for it to arrive is like the man who plants a seed and then paves over the ground. He asked, God answered, he wasn't in the right posture to receive. Combine the prayer with the posture. Ask for wisdom and then go into the world as a student. Let the answer come through the library. Three things I want you to do. First, identify the thing you've been waiting to be ready for. Not the big life thing, the specific learning thing. The book you said you'd read when you had the headspace. The skill you said you'd develop when you had the time. The area of your craft you said you'd study properly when conditions were better. Name it, write it down. Second, open the library today. Not when you're ready, today. 10 pages, one podcast episode, one conversation where you ask a real question and actually listen to the answer. One review of a recent failure with genuine curiosity about what it's teaching you. The library doesn't require to be ready, it requires you to enter. Third, assign the question. What is this week trying to teach you about your craft? Carry that question through the next 7 days. Pay attention to what the world puts in front of you. You will be surprised at how much it was trying to teach you all along. Kobe said, the world becomes your library. The word he used was becomes, not is, becomes. It becomes your library when you decide to treat it that way. When you stop waiting for the right conditions and start extracting from the ones you're already in. When you stop outsourcing your education to formal systems and start recognizing that everything is teaching you something if you're paying attention. The man who grasps this never stops growing. He can't. The library never closes. There is no graduation. There is only the student who keeps studying and the man who became wise because of it. You are not waiting to be ready. You are already enrolled. Go study. This is Built Not Felt by the Rice Code. I'll see you all in the next episode.